if I do a little of that.
Happy Friday afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Real Estate Lab podcast, where we talk about things that matter to you. This week is going to be very interesting. We're going to focus on new builds or new construction, whatever your flavor is. There are a lot of people that don't understand how different the process is and like what they're looking for. And so that is our topic for today. JJ, you want to introduce yourself for people that may not know?
For y'all tuning into the Real Estate Lab, JJ Tolentino with the Next Level Property Group at KW Realty. Excited to talk about new builds, I do think, or new construction homes. I think this is a hot topic. People like new things, and it's cool to have those options.
Oh, yeah. So I go by Ian of Austin everywhere on the internet, including Spotify and Amazon and Google, where we run this Real Estate Lab podcast, as well as obviously seeing us on YouTube, Facebook, etc. So excited to have you here. Let's just jump right in. Listen, I had an interesting question from a client who we're looking for some houses for them and their family, right? And he says, hey, Ian, there's this house, new construction house in Bryson, which is in Leander. So it's a community in Leander for $305,000. JJ, if I told you there was a house in Austin today for $305,000, how far away do you think that is?
Oh, that's an hour.
Mm-hmm. Right? Like 2 years ago.
If it closes at that price, because there's a lot of weird listing trickery going on.
Well, and I think that's super important to talk about. So let's first show where Bryson is, right? So if we're in Google Maps and we talk Bryson, right? So it's in Leander.
Hot now. That's in the mix.
Say it again.
Bryson's in the mix. Now it's in the mix with the growth.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so Austin is here. Bryson is up here over by where North Line and Leander is, right? Like it is a hot community. And the thing, and I'm actually leaving my, that's funny. I'm leaving my notifications on so people know how hard we work, because I get those all day long. So the reason why this is important, like Bryson specifically, there are a lot of places people are attracted. One reason people are attracted to Austin is the topography, and Bryson is super hilly. It is a gorgeous subdivision for new construction, and you see that reflected in the prices. So JJ, if I were
a premium, dude, that 305, I mean, what's going on? That's
right. Well, here's the thing. Those prices, and this is the part that gets super interesting, they're not what you think. And I'll show you why. But first, I want to do this. So I have the MLS up, right? So I'm going to go to residential, and I'm going to search.
Our realtor database.
Oh, come on. What was that?
Our realtor database.
Our realtor database. And I'm going to type in Bryson. I don't think people get it. So active, you know how I do this, right? So I'm going to say closed in the last, let's say 30 days. Ooh, not 300 days, 30 days. Okay. So closed is what you're going to pay. And then active, that's just what it's listed at. But in both cases, so this is Bryson. And look at this. This is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house is what it was, right? Is that what it was?
Market analysis.
4-bed, 2-bath house.
1,800 square feet.
1,800 square feet. Watch this. I'm not even putting in bedrooms or anything. Here's the price.
4 to 7.
This column right here.
Let's make this bigger. About mid 400s to low 700s.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so these top ones are active. So if I go to the next page, we'll see some close. These are the ones, this is what people are actually paying for them, okay?
Which is about similar, low 4s to low 700s. And we have the list price and close price.
So here's something that's interesting. We do have the list price and close price. So this close price, so let's look at that. List price is $399, close price $425. 650, 705. 49 is 472. But none of them are anywhere near this 375. I'm sorry, 305. Like none of them. How does that happen? Do you want to go through like how builders come up with their pricing?
Oh my gosh, it's the Lennar website.
Hey, yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I thought it could have been yeah. It's kind of like when you drive around and you see those builder signs and they say, such and such, Leander, this builder from the 300s. Those are old. They need to replace those. They just don't replace them.
They don't have to, because people get excited and they're like, oh my God, yeah. And then they'll go there without their realtor or anything. This is where it gets interesting. They'll go there and then they'll talk to the sales rep and they'll say, oh, no, but you have to account for this. You got to account for this. You got to account for this. So it actually, we got to charge you for the lot. You know that, right? Like, and you don't just get a back patio. You got to pay for that. You don't just get that. And so when you start looking at the actual numbers that it costs to build, they're often very different. Now that depends on the builder, but that's huge, right? So
let me point out too, when you're looking around, there are listing agents that price similarly for attention. And again, people approach them without representation. It's exciting. It causes a bit of a stir. So, if it's too good to be true, it's possibly that. Look into it.
It's so funny you say that. That was the exact verbiage from my client. They were like, is this too good to be true? And I looked at it and I was like, from that builder, maybe not if they're having a fire sale on a property. But in reality, I'm like, you know what? This just doesn't feel right. There's no way. And again, unless it's fallen out for some reason, somebody had to move in an emergency situation, or it was a build that was under contract for a long time, and then they're trying to close it right now, but they lost their buyer or something. Anyway, all that to say, this house doesn't actually exist, even though it's on their website right now. And this is not to call out the builder, because almost every builder, you have to understand how they operate. And this is what we do as realtors, right? So check this out. So yes, if you're purchasing a new build, there is absolutely value to us real estate agents, and we can't be involved after you go to the builder. We actually have to be involved before you go to the builder. So if you're thinking about new construction, give us a call. And I'm
again, not for buyers that are listening to this, you do show up to these sometimes, especially if you're newer, and it appears that this on-site is helping you out and benefiting you straight up. They know the floor plans, they know so much about the community, but you got to remember, they are representing the seller, they're representing the builder, and you have to come in with representation just so you can protect yourself.
I mean, you don't have to. Listen, let's be honest. You don't have to. Like, you don't have to call me. And I'm not going to say I don't care, because I do care, right? But our job is to protect your interests, and you don't pay for that. So why wouldn't you, right? Like, there's so many people I've taught so many things to when they were building a new construction. They were like, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't know that. And yes, the sales people will help you with that. And yes, the construction manager will help you with that. And yes, we can help you with that. There's just so much to it. Now, if you've done like 15, 16 homes, then you probably don't need to call us unless you want to sell it. And that's fine. And that is not free. But so I wanted to bring this up. Again, this is really, really critical. Look, one home available. So this is on their website. So the thing is, that house, it's not actually available, but they didn't take it down, right? Because they do have plans that could possibly have a base price of that, but that's not the truth, right? So when you look on their websites, there's only one available. So the starting price for this Weaver here, and I'm not calling out the builder. I'm showing how
the process,
how they operate. So one home available. So when I click on this plan, starting price available, view included. I don't actually see it available. Oh, you don't actually see it available. You have to like go through. Here it is. Move in ready at, look, 5:04. So, and it's interesting because if you see a new construction home that is inventory, that's closer to the real price because they've already put everything in it. If you're looking at a base price of a home, nobody walks away with a base price. You know, I had this girl, dude, she was buying a house from LGI, and they're no longer a company. They were just acquired, and I'm glad. I did not like them. So now I'm going to talk major crap. She moved into this house. She didn't have grass in her backyard, and she didn't know, right? The process was very janky, everything about it. They didn't pay me as the realtor, even though I brought her. Like,
there's Northeast or East or where
this was in Gerald. This was in Gerald 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it just, everything about it felt fishy. Everything. It was
there
bad.
is something to say, even just observing, stepping in, the on-site, the process, how they talk to you and treat you. You get a little bit of a preview of even without even meeting the builder manager. So sometimes some of this stuff is all cohesive in some way.
Yep. Here's another thing. You see how it says schedule a tour or request info? Yeah, don't do that. Here's what you do. If you have a realtor, right, or representation, and you want to see a place, make them
representation, not representing yourself, but yeah.
Yeah, make them do it, right? Yeah. Make the realtor do the work, because if they schedule it, then they can actually help you through the process. If you just go and you click this button, and it's the same for Zillow and Open Door and everything, right? Like if you just click the button, what happens is you're assigned someone from a queue, and then even if you do have a realtor, especially a lot of these builders today, they're going to say, oh yeah, if they didn't bring you in, or like, how do we know you heard from the builder? Or, I'm sorry, heard from your realtor. So they don't believe it. And then your realtor can't be involved. So you can actually shoot yourself in the foot from having free representation. And again, I'm not trying to sell.
Even like, yeah, you know, we whatever floats your boat, everyone has a different strategy. But if you do want your realtor involved and you feel comfortable having realtor representation, even verbally, I think some new buyers feel awkward saying it for some reason. Like they're not sure how it works. You know,
I think that's the biggest thing, the education.
Yeah. You know, hey, I have a realtor representing me. Sometimes, I mean, it's a little different now because I do more Zoom meetings than in person, but I used to give out like stacks of cards. Like, I know you're going to hit up builders. Let's double team it. You're going to talk to on-sites. I'm going to talk to on-sites. Here's a card to help grease this conversation through. Now, if you don't have their card, just say it. It's a good professional conversation to have.
Some builders don't care. And that's one of those builders. They don't care. They do not care if you show up at the builder with your card of a realtor, with the realtor's card. They do not care. They will not let that realtor participate in the transaction. And if that's the case, think about how
you've been doing a lot more new builds this year. I've been doing a lot more resales.
Dude, I think I've done at least 40, 45 new builds this year. Like I've done a lot of new builds this year.
But Lennar does have like a very fast-paced, high waiting list. I mean, we could get into the process. I don't know if you want to go with pricing on new builds or
I want to talk about the types to choose, and then also like things about the new build that you want to look out for. So how do you feel about taxes in a new build area? Like, do you know how that works?
It depends, because it's really more the new builds are going out into, they're developing in these what used to be more rural. Sometimes I see high taxes and sometimes I see okay taxes.
So I'm going to show you this perfect example. Okay, this is a house in in Bryson.
Oh yeah,
789. It's a Perry home. As far as builders go, I have done a lot of I've helped clients build a lot of Perry homes, and I like them as a builder. There have been a couple shaky things over time, but mostly it's been an incredible experience. Check this out. Look at the tax rate.
Pretty solid.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. If you look in a neighborhood that has Perry and then, like, let's say a Meritage or a Lennar or something, Meritage is going to be 100 to 300,000 more almost every time. But they double the warranty. There are so many things. They have these taller ceilings. They don't have trusses, roof trusses. There's all sorts of things that make them different. The way they
Do you
insulate.
associate like Lennar builds at let's say more middle class homes, just for sake of argument, or more affordable homes. If a builder like Perry also taps into higher price homes, do you just give them more credit and say, hey, they have more resources, there's a little bit more up, in their bag when it comes to building, and they're usually priced higher too. They just kind of stay within a certain range.
If we're just talking about those two companies, I would say Lennar is your Amazon of builders. Like, that's their goal, is to be your Amazon. Just go there, right? Like, they're not trying to impress you. They're trying to get it done at the price that you can afford
Yeah,
to pay.
I do those analogies too, like a DR Horton or a KB. KB to me is like a Walmart. They're
Yep.
definitely there. Price is
Yeah, you can get
right.
everything,
Yeah,
but the prices are going to range all over the place.
yeah,
There might be things falling off the shelf, but that's not your concern because you still
yeah.
get a
They,
house,
they
you
got
have
a lot of
a roof and four
production.
walls.
Very, very big
I,
neighborhoods.
I'm actually gonna step back. KB builds pretty solid homes. Yeah. Let me say that.
They got
Sometimes they're
some range.
challenging
I,
to
I
get a
think
hold
KB
of.
tapped into some high end a little bit.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, that's the
Sometimes.
thing. If you go shopping for a TV, you have the Walmart version. I don't know if you know this, but you can buy like a version of the TV that's only available at Walmart on Black Friday. It's actually a different model number than the TV you would get from the same company. Your Samsung TV is a different model number at Walmart than it is if you go to like Crutchfield, or if you go to Best Buy, or if you go, like, look at that. People don't
Yeah,
catch that. And
it's
it's the same
interesting
thing
how
with these
people ask
builders.
about our perspective on builders, because we see so much, and we try to find these analogies to explain, like, there's it's kind of better here, and this is like this over here.
A lot of times people don't understand how the lot sizes work and whether or not you pay a lot premium. Perry's one of those companies where they bake it into the price right now, right? So if you're buying a Perry home, you're not choosing a lot of things. It's just kind of there. Like, a lot
Built.
of the upgrades from some of the other builders, it's just there in the
That's
Perry
what you
home.
call
You
spec.
walk in and you
Would you
feel
say
it.
that's spec?
Spec. Yeah. Like,
Perry spec house.
Perry, any house that Perry builds feels different than any house that Lennar, KB, Meritage, a lot of builders
Yeah,
build.
yeah. It's
It just feels different.
yeah, and
And I'm not,
sometimes it's
listen,
this aesthetic feeling that you get. It's hard to explain, but that's why you look at properties at some point. You could look at all the square footage and the lot and the dollar per square foot, but it just has to flow right.
and that's the thing. The price per square foot, this one's actually fairly reasonable, but the reason why is because it's such a it's a larger house in this neighborhood. Because you have other houses in this neighborhood, like you saw, 1,800 square feet. It's a very
Mhm.
different house.
Mhm.
But it's in the same neighborhood, and we've talked about it. At least I know I've talked about it on this channel. I don't know if we've talked about it as a cohort, but buying a house that is the largest in the neighborhood or the smallest in the neighborhood can create some wonky comps in the future. Like, when you go to sell it in the future, that might become a thing, like a concern, right? For the buyer or yeah.
What do you mean? I like this. I like smaller because in regards to riding the coattails of higher priced properties, I feel like it's a decent place to start. Middle is like great. Uh, I call it king of the hill. You might have a king of the hill issue.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the person, right? Like, if you want to be in Bryson, but you only have a budget of 430, you can only get the smallest house today, period.
Yep.
Like, you don't have a choice,
Yeah.
right? But people know that. You walk in, again, you're driving through a neighborhood. I know people drive through and they look at the houses like, wow, this is our neighborhood. Wow, right? So might be fine for a starter home, might also be great for an investment home. It really depends. Speaking of investments, a lot of neighborhoods are still locked out when it comes to new construction. Okay. So you can't buy a new construction home as an investor, or if it's a second home, in most cases. I know a
Yeah.
few places you can, but you're not getting them for $300,000 anymore. And here's the thing. We talked about it on one of my other videos. You can't get away with it all the time. Like people think they can get away with it. If you get away with it, it's called mortgage fraud. But like they find out in the process because you're going through and you're getting loans on these houses, right? Unless you're plopping down $500,000 cash. If you're buying it cash, that might change things. Might. They still want you to get pre-qualified with their lender, right? So then you just tell the lender whatever, like they'll pre-qualify you. But again, if you're paying cash, nobody will know. I'm not endorsing it. I'm saying nobody will know. But if you're buying a house, and they'll try to dig in. But if you're buying a house with a loan,
have a lot of paperwork, y'all.
As you get closer to closing, they're going to ask you that question. They're going to look you in the eye. You're going to put your hand on a book of some kind of religious significance, and you're going to say, I swear to you, government, that I am not buying this house as a second home. And if they trace that back to you in the future, because the builders, I mean, they want the developers and the builders, they have agreements and they want to maintain a certain type of physical presence in this neighborhood. Sometimes they just want single family homes and not investors. So because of that, they might tell on you. Somebody might tell on you. I just got told on.
Totally. I think as a community,
pergola,
especially with rising home prices, people are very sensitive to pricing right now,
Yes.
And to take away an opportunity from somebody that wants to be an owner occupant so they could start their generational wealth or have that opportunity for their family and see an investor there, that could trigger a neighbor easy.
There's all this conversation around a housing crisis, right? Being that houses are not affordable for people in your trades. I heard my friend Christina Smallhorn, she actually said this when I was on one day we were talking about it, and I asked her that question. I was like, what does affordable mean? She's like, when your police officers, your teachers, your firefighters, when they cannot afford a home, there's a problem. In the area that they live, there's a problem. That's kind of her measure. Your first responders.
That's very interesting because my wife's a teacher, so I hear about her and her colleagues, and
that's the thing, man.
I actually hear some very, I want to call it outlandish, but the commutes are, like Gerald to Pflugerville or something, it's a little tough.
You know what I didn't address? I'm so sorry, everybody. I didn't address that Liberty. It was actually her birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Liberty. Make sure you tell her in the
Liberty,
comments,
miss
please.
ya. She's usually our colleague and co-host here.
I know she's with her kids. She's spending the day with her kids, and it's her birthday. I was like, cool. Don't worry about this. But we want to make sure that we're still delivering on our commitment to bring you some valid content
out there. Okay, so back to that.
How do you feel about this?
Would you say that?
Go ahead. You go.
Real quick. So would you say that builder website was a bait and switch of sorts? Lack of a better word.
Okay. That is the design. It's kind of like, what it is? When you go to Target and you get to the register and you look around and they have gum, and for whatever reason, you always need gum and peanuts or hand sanitizer, like you need it. That's what it is. You're like, I'm already here. Might as well get it. It's only this much. Like you're borrowing $500,000 to buy this house, and to put a patio on it, it's $10,000. That's not a lot of money. Right. And in your loan, it might be another like $7 or something monthly. Like you don't think about it when you're paying, $2,800 a month. You're like, yeah, put the patio on there. Yeah, put the land on there. And builders know that. They want to get you there. Not all of them. Again, got to preface, it's not all of them, but some of them will get you there. And then they upsell you because, you upsell yourself. And so when I go with people, I absolutely say this will bring you money in the future. This will bring you personal value or intrinsic value. But you won't get money for it, right? Like if we do the design center thing, or if we're walking the new, people don't, again, first time buyers, second, third time buyers. Like if someone purchased a resale house and then they're going through the new construction process, they think they're building a house. It's like, hold on. You got to understand like what types of builds. There's like nothing on the ground. You buy the land and then you hire an architect and a building team and they build a house for you. Then there's going to a builder and they're like, we have 15 plans for you. and you start and you go through the process for 9 to 12 months. Or there's the builders that are like, hey, we've got this house available. Nobody lives in it. You've got 3 weeks before you have to make a decision. Do you want to buy it for this price? Like,
I
and
call
there's
those
no
production
changes.
builders. Do you say that? That's
Both
kind of
of
the
those
break
are
between
production.
custom and production.
Both of those are production, right? So like your builders that are, you go in and you
I feel
start
like
building
custom
with
could
them.
be even. It's like custom is similar to a newer to be built, and
Well,
depending on the type of builder.
we have a lot of people that come here and they're like, oh, well, I thought I was going to be able to pick out my backsplash and my tile and all that. Again, depends on the builder. And right now is a very different time in the world where a lot of builders have transitioned to, no. You're just going to take what we give because the demand has been so high.
I coincidentally have a super ridiculously custom, and it's in the Harker Heights area.
Interesting. See,
So
that's
it's
still
slowed down.
super affordable.
It's actually still in the fives. Fours and fives custom.
How
Harker
many
Heights
square
is like
feet?
an hour north of Austin, y'all.
Okay,
Roughly.
so people that haven't seen this, I've done this a billion times, right? So I'll click Austin, and then I'll click directions, and then I'll choose Harker Heights.
Harker Heights, Texas.
Right. And then if I do that, and I can change like when I'm leaving, like, so if it's 8 a.m, I'm going to see how long it's going to take with traffic. This is good enough, right? Because you can see the red. The red is your traffic stops. So we're looking at an hour and 15 minutes, 70 miles. People from California are like, oh, that's nothing, right? People from New York, nothing. California, I meant Chicago, nothing. Florida.
And that's what's
nothing.
interesting about the growth here. I think people see that and they're like, I will take it. A lot of the locals are thinking 20 plus minutes. That is so far. Now I have to live in this neighborhood.
People are spoiled in Austin. I love it. What do you think about this tax rate here?
I'm sorry,
not that tax rate.
It
HOA.
monthly.
The HOA first.
It was like $60-something a month. I'm assuming, well, I kind of know at that amount, you have to have some good community amenities.
Yeah.
Something got to be going on it.
When you're looking at an HOA,
could be worth it.
And this is just an experience from doing so many new construction homes. When you're looking at an HOA, if it is more than $50 a month in central, in Austin area, and you don't have amenities, figure out why. It could be a condo community, like
they got to be
freestanding condos. Yeah. There could be some kind of catch, or they had to run, gas to the neighborhood. That's another thing. A lot of houses, these new construction, you might not even have gas as an option. It might be like this whole neighborhood is all electric. And I know I talk about that a lot. So, and then go back to the tax rates. So generally the HOA is the maintenance, right? And then the tax rate is the development part that you're paying for. But what's interesting is this rate shifts, right? So it's 2.86, right? But if we look at realist tax right here, sorry, I'm like super excited about this. Oh, it doesn't show because we don't have any history. We don't have any history on this property, but you can break down the tax by going to the appraisal district, and it'll show you that a lot of it, like maybe 0.7 of it or 0.8 of it, let's just say it that way. So like the actual tax rate is 2, but the other 8 or 0.8698 is a mud tax, because they had to bring in the gas. Yes. They had to bring in a lot of this facilities, maybe well water or something, right? And so people be careful, like not be careful. Like it's okay to have higher taxes if you have the amenities for it and you know that the tax rate will decrease over time. But every single year, but it's going to change how much you can afford. So the same house, if the tax rate was 2, what you could afford is going to be very different. You could afford not twice the house, but $1 million. I'll say like this might be an $800,000 house, but if the tax rate was a 2.2, you could get $1 million house. It looks exactly the same. For the same monthly payment,
right?
Same monthly payment. That's important. Super important. 4 beds, 3 baths. This is good. Also, when you're looking at new builds and you see these drawings, notice it says representative. And they show you floor plans and stuff, and that's great. Perry's one of those builders. This is super cool. This is their amenities. You're paying for it, but it's nice.
I think that's a decent, once you look at enough houses and see enough HOA fees and what they come with, you start to gauge what's a decent deal. And I think that it works, because Bryson they got the pool too, right? Community center.
Yep. They have a
That's
pool. They might build another one. I don't know yet. They have this one has the spiral staircase. And just because I'm on Perry's site, we're going to talk about this. 3399W. That's the square footage. They name their plans after the square footage. KB does the same thing. It's really weird.
Yeah.
You go
I
to
find it
DR
easier to
Horton
read,
and it's called
though.
like the
It's
Reagan
better.
and the Roosevelt, right? It's funny.
I like that. It's easier to read to me.
You think so? The number? Are
I
you
like seeing the
overly
square
analytical?
footage. It's like all together, as opposed to what is the Washington? Okay, the Washington's 3,400 square feet. It's like 3,400 R. Boom.
Yeah, all they have is a bunch. They have 9 pictures, and 8 of them are of the surrounding area. and then the elevation. Notice how much windows. Perry's big on the natural light and like grand entryways when you walk in. Those are 2 signatures of theirs. But
yeah,
anyway,
Perry,
so enough.
Perry makes a statement.
Huh?
Perry makes a statement with their.
They
projects.
do. They do. It's again, everybody's a little different. So where is this? Blackhawk? Where are we?
No, that's still north.
So we talked about taxes. We talk about costs, right? Like how to determine some of these costs. And you tell me how you feel about this. How many times has somebody gone to your website or had a conversation with you and they were like, I was looking online and I see this new build, but I can't see any more. Like they're looking on, let's say Zillow or Redfin, or they're looking on your website.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that with you and just explaining to the public how the builders don't have to market the entire availability. So they'll give you a little taste, and then professionals like us or whatever, you yourself, we come on in, just like how Ian was looking at the website, a little bit of research, and we start figuring out what the inventory really is. And I also argue that maybe they don't want to show all the pricing history because the MLS.
Oh, no, of course not.
Yeah,
some builders do.
MLS.
Most builders don't.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons. Texas is a non-disclosure state,
Mm-hmm.
and so they can get away with not having to deal with the appraiser and tell them what the houses are closing at, because then the appraiser just has to say, let's figure it out based on, whatever reason. But I mean, and most of the time it works out for clients. They won't have to come to the table with extra appraisal money, but sometimes it doesn't. I actually had that happen where a client had to bring an extra $50,000. It came out back $50,000 short on their appraisal for a new build. That's a builder that I don't like. But I told the clients, I don't really like this builder, but it's the only house in your budget in the location you want it to be. Realize that. Decide, right? Like that's so important. Like you either have the ability to choose or you don't. Mm-hmm. If you want a house, this is the house. It is such a tough decision.
Communicated regarding whether it's like an escalation clause or how that price can stick.
Have you talked about escalation clauses on the? Have you talked about that?
I don't even think we've talked about it on our.
You spit it out.
Podcast.
Spit it out.
Basically, the price can escalate or it cannot escalate. So based off the builder's material costs, they may slide that into the contract. Now, the sad thing, I've never experienced this, but I've heard about, buyers not knowing that could happen, and then as they're approaching closing, boom, X amount to close. So that's a good conversation to have from the get-go.
Yeah. So imagine you contract for a house for, let's say, $700,000, right? And then they get along the process and they're like, oh my gosh, lumber is so much more expensive than we thought. We're going to have to charge you $725. And you're like, but that's not what I was going to pay for. And they're like, yeah, but we're not going to pay for it. Right? It's like, wait, what? And so then they could do it multiple times throughout the process. A lot of builders don't do that, but there are still some that do that.
Yep.
Really important to know, right? So, I mean, that's kind of a big deal. And then if you walk away, let's say they had an escalation clause and it was in the contract and you walk away, they can keep your earnest money. What? And let's say there's anything that goes different in the process. Like if you used your lender because you get a better deal with your lender once you do the math. And then something, there's like a day where you're running just a little behind, like maybe a couple days behind. The builders write their contracts for them. You have to understand that. They're not going to tell you that when you walk into the sales office. They might, but they're not obligated in a fiduciary capacity to share that with you. They're like people that work at Best. Let me take a step back. I'm not knocking sales associates at new construction homes. I actually love them. There are a lot of them that do a phenomenal job. Phenomenal. There are some that do not. And you'll see the turnover rate in that industry is extremely high, just like with real estate. There are 40,000 realtors that got their license this year in the United States. It's a ridiculous number. 10% of them will do anything. And the rest of them will figure out that real estate wasn't for them because they thought it was easy. So when you're talking to some of these people, a small subset of these people, you walk in and it's like going to Best Buy. I swear I've gone to Best Buy and I'm a nerd, right? I mean, it's obvious. I've gone to Best Buy and I asked this guy about, I think it was some speakers, connecting a projector. I was putting a projector on my patio and this speaker system. And I was like, so, explain to me why I would buy this one over that one. And they literally, oh my gosh, they walked up to the speaker or the projector and started reading the bullets under the item. I feel like that's how some of these sales I'm like, what just happened? I can read. Do you not think I can read? That's not what we're talking about here. I cannot believe you just did that in front of my face.
And also,
say, I don't know. Fine.
The speed too, when things are flying off the market, their salesmanship doesn't necessarily have to be all that. I mean, there's great salespeople out there, but you got to remember the speed of the market and the velocity it causes service to be questionable because it's kind of selling itself. So
I know some of these people that get 100 calls a day, right? They get so many calls that they have to have someone to just handle their calls for all of the neighborhoods. And then they'll get to you when they can get to you. Kind of like Best Buy. I keep using that example because I keep going through it, right? I call Best Buy and they're like, what city are you in? And what are you looking for? What category is it? And all that. And they do like all of that first, right? And that's okay because that's what I do also. But I do it for everything. And then you do it too, right? Like we do it for everything. They do it for their product. So you would have to call, that'd be like calling every Best Buy in the states. Don't do that. And the thing is, and we've talked about this a lot, people move for love or for money. People buy safety and security in a lot of cases, right? Safety, and that's what they're buying. So when you're buying a house, you're buying it to live in a neighborhood, to feel a certain way, right? That you don't need. I don't sell houses. Have we ever talked about that? I don't know. I don't sell houses. I don't have to sell houses. I listen to people and I decide what it is would fit based on their needs.
I feel like that too. People are like, is it tough to sell houses? I'm like, they already want to buy when they come to me. I facilitate it. Like I don't talk you into buying a house.
Right. Tell me who you are, what you need, when you need it by, like when you actually need to live here by, and how much can you spend? And most people don't know that part, right? They haven't talked to a lender. They're afraid to get their credit dinged. And I get that, but like that's all we need to know. And then it's go. And then it's like, are you buying resale? And all that kind of factors into those questions. But I don't even know why I was going through all that. The fact that you're
process.
If you just go to a new construction home site and start walking through and talking to the sales reps, if you're already sold on that neighborhood, there could be a high probability that you just go with it, right? It's just if it's available, you're like, I'm gonna go with it. Mm-hmm. And that could be right for a lot of people, but I've felt people's regrets before, right? And it's especially if they didn't know this builder does this or that builder does this.
And it's interesting. Sometimes, there's clients or acquaintances or they eventually get my name, but they're already in the process. And I'm consulting with them, but we're not official representation. And I hear about it and I'm like, oh, just, I'll consult with you. You got to battle it out. There's just so many. You just got to remember this thing is not there. I would even argue,
sometimes,
maybe a majority of to be built, or I don't even know if majority is the right word to use, but sometimes it's super clean, easy, everybody's happy. But when it's not, it's because you bought something that's not there. You bought a piece of paper. And I tell people, the builder has expectations, you have expectations, and it meets somewhere because it doesn't fit everybody's expectations. And we as agents are there to make sure we're pushing and fighting for your expectations as best as possible, because there's a little bit of a, what is this? Let's make it happen and fit properly.
Yeah, we're like the mediators in a divorce. Like nobody
Yeah.
wants to give up money, and we're like, hold on, let's see what makes sense. Like, how do we help?
Yeah.
How do we make this work? That's I
I
don't
don't
mean
know
to
how
be
deep you
negative.
want to get into processes,
I
or
want to get
if
super
we
deep
should.
into it. I want people to feel like to watch this and say, holy crap, I didn't know half of that. That's what I want people to, like, the light bulb to go off. I want these epiphanies to happen. So go,
What
spit
about
it out.
builders? Do you want to get into like a builder, like a specific builder, like Meritage has a decent waiting list. Lennar has these like crazy waiting lists because they have that one availability.
Yep.
D.R. Horton
Yep.
has different bidding.
Let's talk about the bidding. So some builders do this bidding process. D.R. Horton, all Central
I
Austin.
do want to hear your experience on DR, because I have a client looking. I don't want to let the cat out the bag, but
Just don't say the name. That's fine. Yeah, whatever.
It's close to Samsung.
Mm-hmm.
But it's DR. I mean, you can look it up. You can find this stuff. They're bidding this weekend.
Okay. So here's how it works with D.R. Horton specifically, and they've got, let's say it's 30 different neighborhoods in the Austin metropolitan, greater Austin area. So that includes Austin proper and then a bunch of the suburbs. They've decided that they want to do bids. So what you do is they say, these are the houses we're releasing this weekend from Saturday morning until Sunday at 3 p.m.
So you get this weekly update by DR every week.
I have my VA call them. I'm like, what do you have? I hired a VA to call a lot of these new builds and say, let's make this happen. And that's how I've been able to sell so many or connect clients with so many, because it's like, all it is like, again, comparing and extrapolating the information and making sure that I match people with what they can make happen. And sometimes they find it on their own. I don't think people understand that. Like, it's fine if you find it on your own. Let me evaluate it. And so
it's a team effort. You know, there's so many ways to find properties. That's not all we do is find a property and we're done.
I know. And we don't just open doors for crying.
Yeah. Get your realtor involved. Find a property, tell your realtor you found a property. It's gonna work out.
The problem is, if we just talk about that, like realtors do this and this and this, and we just talk about it, people, they're going to, their eyes are going to glaze over. They're not going to listen. And that's okay. So I try, as we're going through the process, to educate people like, hey, listen, if we're going through a new build, a new construction together, did you know that there are multi-phase inspections that you can get? I like to connect you with an inspector early on, so that if you have a 9-month build process, I am not an expert at building a home. I can identify things that haven't seen.
You say on-site specifically leave that out just to kind of coast through? Or do you think on-sites mention it if they don't have representation? Because I feel a little slighted sometimes, and I've been in situations where I was representing them, and the on-site is kind of, it's just a weird, like, they're not working with us on the phase inspections.
Here's the thing: the more people you bring, it's more cooks in the kitchen, right? The more people you involve in the process, it starts to become. It can become bureaucratic. It can also
do you think they're like kind of shady about it?
They don't want to deal with it, right? They don't want to, like, they already get.
Sure. I just wanted to not.
They already get inspections.
That's
right. The city inspectors come out. Some of the builders have they hire a third-party inspector. But here's the thing: I don't know how you know them, right? If they're inspecting all your homes, they know they're getting 300 houses a month. Of course, they're gonna go through, and I know they have to follow the Texas Real Estate Commission inspection process. Yes. I'm just saying, when you're friends, you're going to treat it differently. That's all I'm saying.
You gotta have your own team. Just get your own team. You're spending hundreds of thousands. If you're in Bryson, $400,000 to $700,000. Get some teammates. Get in there.
So like this multi-phase inspection, like, you're getting a foundation poured, right? That's where all your gas and your plumbing and all your piping, everything's happening right there. You might have a cracked foundation from that point because they did something incorrectly. They poured it incorrectly, or maybe there was a bad weather storm. And if you don't know, especially if you're not here, right? So you can get an inspection then. You can also, I love telling people, get an inspection before they put the walls up. So they've got everything up. They've got all the framing done.
Yeah, free sheetrock.
But before they put up the sheetrock or the drywall, that's another space to get an inspection. And it sucks
Like
because
an
you have to pay
X-ray.
for this. Like what?
Like an X-ray. You get to
Like an
see
X-ray.
through
You get to
things.
see inside of it, right? I love
Yeah.
that analogy. I'm going to use that from now on. It's like an
Yeah.
X-ray. You get to see exactly what's happening. All the wires, like
It's
where
like
they drilled all
Superman,
the
and you
holes.
can see.
If the boards aren't connected well, right? If you have
Yeah.
4 boards and something's off a little bit, and that's how you end up with bulges in the wall, it's crazy. And so, yes, the builder goes through, but the builders are building 100 houses at a time. One person is overseeing 100 houses at a time. If your kid went to school and the teacher had 100 people, 100 other kids in the class, how do you feel about how they're educating your child?
You just gave me flashbacks at when I went to University of Texas, and I would sit in classes with like 600 people, and I'm like, I'm not learning anything.
That's a lecture. That is not a hands-on experience. It's not designed to be.
I was like, this is ridiculous, actually.
Look, I mean, just like us, we're not sitting here, and that's exactly why like we do this, right? Like having this conversation is a general, don't do, like, be careful for yourself.
Yeah. You got to be conscious of how watered down attention can get, because that's what's going on the seller side.
Yeah.
So be conscious of you as your buyer side and put attention towards it.
Yeah. So let's keep going through. There's also the inspection. So first, if you're going to do 4 inspections, multi-phase, right? If you're going to do 4 and you talk to the inspector, they might actually discount, like, because you're paying for it in bulk. So let's say an inspection is supposed to be $500. If you're doing multi-phase, they're only doing like a quarter of the work. So they might do all 4 inspections for, let's say, $1,000. Right? Like these are just arbitrary numbers. Every inspector is different. Some of them do it by square footage. And anyway, so the next what I would recommend as an inspection is just before closing. We do this thing on a new construction called a blue tape walk, or some builders try to change the name to be fancy and like confuse you. Seriously, that's why they do it. It's frustrating. And they'll call it home orientation. Okay. So what they'll do is you go into this build.
I never thought about how they changed that name.
They changed the name. And it's like, what? We don't call it blue tape anymore. It's like,
I know what it is.
And then at the end, they give you blue tape.
Confusing. Yeah.
It's like, why would you not tell me that? So the concept here is maybe about a week before closing. What happens is you walk through, generally with a construction manager, your sales associate is nowhere to be found. And I love going with my clients to these blue tape walks. People don't, like, a lot of realtors don't do that. I'm just like, you don't have to be there. But I like being there because I learn every single time. I learn something new. So you go through this blue tape walk, and what happens is you're meeting with the construction manager. They generally show you all the things about the home. Like, here's how you use your microwave. Did you know there's a QR code on the inside of your microwave? And under the cabinet, there's all these phone numbers so you can reach out to people. Here's your warranty, sign this. And then they'll hand you a roll of tape, probably 2 colors. One is for paint. One color, blue tape, is for paint because it's painter's tape. And then the other color, usually like a chartreuse, like this color,
green,
right? And that is for texture. So they hand you a paint roll and a texture roll, and they'll be like, all right, let's walk around together, or maybe just go to town, right? And mark everything that doesn't look right. So I like having an inspection right then, because we can only see what we know to look for. And I've done a lot of new builds, so I know I can always find something that the construction manager didn't, always, or that the clients didn't. But always, right? But the inspectors,
again,
like, they test the outlets.
A little sloppier. I think it's just like that time, which is fine. Like, we'll all like work through this. There's a lot going on.
Wait, say it again.
I think they get sloppier a little bit. You know,
but they're a lot of these are publicly traded companies, right? So they have to perform based on numbers, not based on.
It's that balance between service and quantity and quality.
There you go. Service. Yeah. It's not about service for all of them. Yeah. It's about getting it done so that you can move on to the next. And listen, I've been guilty of that. Like this is the first serious year where I feel like I can truly start giving back to my clients, not just like being there for them and doing the process and making sure I save them a lot of money throughout the way or whatever. Like, and that upfront value, I'm talking about long-term value. So I get it, right? Like, and this year's just been crazy. Anyway, I want to go back to, I don't want to miss the process. And I get scatterbrain, scroll. So you go through this process where you have the blue tape, but the inspectors, they'll plug stuff in. They'll test the outlets. They'll do things like making sure that the hot water works, right? They'll do all that sort of stuff. Hinges, broken hinges on things. And listen, when you think that you're going to go through this meeting and it's 30 minutes and it ends up being 3 hours and you have to get back to work, I will stay behind, or the inspector will go there, because you want to make sure this is your last chance, really, to make sure that things are right, because the builders want to push closing, especially when you get toward the end of the month or something. Like, I want to close now, and they will fight you. Sorry. But yeah, they'll fight you on it. Palm Beach, Florida. Who's calling me from there? Anyway, they'll fight you. They really want. It's probably no. It is. It might be from YouTube. I've got like 5 people I have to call back today. It's so crazy. So anyway, they'll fight you and they'll try to close even if the house isn't done. Like you, like I had a client where their windows weren't in for about a month and a half after they closed. Windows, like you can't move it. Fortunately, again, they got a house for $100,000 less than it appraised for. Okay. And they didn't live here. They were working on relocating, but the time was on their side. So it wasn't a need. It's just frustrating because the builder was forcing this close. But when we were sitting here and we were like, we need a little more time for this, the builder was like, no, you got to get it done now or else we're going to sell your house to somebody else. Like, seriously threatening us. What?
Yeah. I've been in.
Right. And obviously I'm sitting here and I'm like playing mediator because that's my job. And I'll get everybody on a call, a voice call, because not everybody knows how to use Zoom or Google Meet or whatever. And it's seriously, let's go through this. What are you looking for? What are you looking for? You know, because that's what has to happen. Everyone has these grand expectations and expects a perfect home. You don't get a perfect home. You get a really nice home almost every time.
This is a custom build.
Yeah.
Or not custom, but like Central Austin. What neighborhood was that? I don't want to say Clarksville. Anyway, it was Central Austin or Central, and there was a glass staircase. It was like tens of thousands of dollars. Believe it or not, we ended up closing without it being completed.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've had a few of those this year, and nobody's been happy.
And it's just interesting because it's the stairs to go upstairs. Like
I can't actually use my house. Like that's a real problem. Why are you they're forcing you to close because they want to. So here's the real reason. Here, you want to know the secret? It's because they want you to close because they don't want to pay next month's taxes when it is now a habitable home. Right? Because they're paying on unimproved property. And then as soon as they get that certificate of occupancy, if depending on when it is, and they go get it appraised, they now have to pay taxes based on that appraised amount. And they would much rather have you pay for it based on that appraised amount. And that's why they do that.
And that's just one overhead cost. I
also hit their numbers for stock purposes.
There's more like construction loans to pay off so they could roll it. You know, there's still.
Yeah, they have to pay off their loan and all that sort of stuff. But here's the problem. That's not your problem.
It's not.
You hired them to build you a house based on this specification.
It's a lot of pressure to.
And if you're doing it by yourself and you're at work and you're trying to deal with all this, now stick your realtor on it, right? Like,
yeah.
Seriously, I'll have 4 people on my team sitting there, like, what do you call it? Like, just getting on them saying, fix this, try this, do this.
Build team, right? The on-site, the builder manager, the assistants, what's going on out there? What's up with the trades?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh, man.
Squeaky wheel. You heard the squeaky wheel saying?
I don't remember.
The squeaky wheel is the one that gets the grease.
Yeah.
So
that's actually really true. I remember we were closing on a house and they still had the dummy door. You know, the door, it locks and stuff, but it's just like wood. It's not fancy or anything. And they needed a door to be able to close. Like that was the only thing left on their house. And they went and stole it from the house across the street that was a few months away, or where they were closing a week later or something like that. I was like, yeah.
They're like, it'll come in on the other side. Okay, so that's a little bit more on the contract to close and the phases. What about the bidding? Let's go back to
Okay,
DR
so
Horton.
yeah. So before we go to the bidding, I want to say make sure when you hire an inspector, if you hire an inspector, I would say half of my clients have decided on a new construction home to buy or to hire an inspector. And every single person, pardon me, who is hired it's the eggnog. I'm drinking eggnog right now. There's nothing in it. I just like eggnog. Every single person who's hired an inspector has had an inspection report and found issues that the builder missed. Period. So people ask
Oh
me, should
yeah,
I
totally, man. I'd never seen a perfect inspection report at whatever phase.
In fact, I've seen new construction home inspection reports be 100 pages and way worse than a resale home that was built in like the late 80s.
And sometimes it's not necessarily that things are wrong, but you do
Right.
get another perspective because there's different ways to build, there's different standards, and it's just good to understand. And sometimes you're kind of studying it and you're like, I kind of like my inspector standard. Why don't you just put that extra framing 4x4
Right.
for the wind that my inspector is saying that your builder is saying is not necessary? And there's no, I don't know if there's a right or wrong, but you learn more.
Well, there you go. You learn more about the process and what's going into your home. And an inspection is an opinion, right?
Yeah.
Just like a realtor's valuation is an opinion. And so that's why the appraiser comes out and everything, right? And same with the inspector. The inspector is like, I think that this might be something to consider. But when you have a list, it's basically a checklist of this should probably get done. And the inspection company that I use, and if you're curious or if you have a favorite, make sure you put that in the comments. I'm curious, like, who you loved for inspection, for insurance and everything. But the inspection company I use, they have a red light, green light system. So if it's good to go, it's green. If it's something that's caution, it's yellow. And then if it's like, this is a safety hazard, it's red. And so, and they have, it's super cool. I love it. And they're super efficient. They always catch things. And I'm like, man, how'd you see that? Like, you're shorter than I am and you're seeing it on top of a door. What? They take drones up and fly and look at the roof and stuff. They're awesome. All women.
I got an inspector that was one of his other lives is a firefighter. And he catches like all the electrical, it's a good background to have.
One of my other inspectors is a police officer. Like, just somebody who, integrity is of high priority.
Yeah.
That's it. So anyway, so we talked about that. Let's go back to DR Horton and the bidding process. And other companies do that, but I'm saying DR Horton because it's easier to explain their process. So here's what happens. You find a neighborhood that you like. DR Horton will release usually early in the phase. So let's say there's like 5 phases. They're building the house, first phase. Oh, also, if you're buying a house, the earlier the phase, the less expensive it's going to be. That's all I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. It's a wave. You surf the wave.
Yeah, right. So like Santa Rita Ranch, they're building 10,000 houses. It's going to take them 20 years. They're on phase, 4 or 5, right? And the houses, some of these houses are already at $1.3 million.
Yeah, I would say call us about surfing the wave. I know what you're talking about because you see a pattern and you're like, okay, at this neighborhood, this is what's happening. This is what it looks like. I know what you mean.
And I want to apologize again for being all over the place. I just have so much to say and I'm so passionate about this. Like, I really want you to understand so many things about the process.
We have plenty more to help you out with.
I mean, I don't even want you to call me. I want you to email me or ask questions in the comments. I don't even want you to call. I do want.
I know this isn't a live one either. We don't get to interact on today. We don't get to interact because we don't get the live.
I didn't tell people that. So yeah, this is. We'll be watching it live, but we won't physically be live. And the reason why is, like I said, just timing. So anyway, DR Horton. What are we talking about? Bids. Here's how it works. DR Horton will release. So they're early in the phase. They usually do like 10% investor builds. A lot of people don't know that. So if you're an investor, you will get first dibs at properties. And they just do that to kind of kickstart the build process because they know people are coming in with cash
going. Yeah.
And it's done. Right. But then the other 90%, they have a release allotment and window. So every week they might have 4 houses that they're allowed to give out. And usually 2 of them are their most popular plan. And then 2 others are just things that they think are going to sell. Maybe one of the small ones, one of the big ones, right? They do something like that. And so they release it and they say, here's what they send you an email or your realtor an email if they're signed up. And on Saturday, between Saturday morning and Sunday afternoon, you have to respond back with how much you're bidding for that house. Like, it doesn't matter what they have the house listed at. So if the house is listed at 425, doesn't matter. And that's where I go back to the MLS and I'm like, okay, what closed in that area for how much, right? That's one way I kind of evaluate, but also I have a lot of relationships with these builders. So I've been able to win a lot of bids. So what'll happen is they go in and they try to.
By the way, on sites know who's coming through, and they kind of favor good realtors for smoothness purposes.
Yes. Yes. I've won deals over people that didn't have a realtor. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, for bids at DR Horton.
Yeah. I mean,
so anyway,
everybody wants it to be a good, smooth process. And the facilitators actually, I mean, we're facilitating.
Yeah. Cause I don't get in the way. I only step in when there's a problem. I try to educate. I like to over educate. If I have the capacity and I'm with people, a lot of times people are just out of town and they're like, I just want to buy something. This is my budget, blah, blah. So anyway, but if you want to spend time together, I talk too much. So how long have we been doing this? We're already an hour in. I don't want to stop yet.
We've got
a little more.
The DR Horton example.
Okay. So DR Horton, they have a release window from, let's say, Saturday morning to Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
You have to email them back with what you're buying, what floor plan, what your bid is. Okay. And then I think you have to you have to be pre-approved already by their lender. That's important. Even if you plan to use your own lender, you have to be pre-approved by their lender because they're not going to give you a shot. They want everybody to go through. That's not legal, but they do it. They're like, I mean, like, how do you enforce that? They don't fall under the same ethics committees and they don't have to enforce it. So, and lenders, and they might give you incentives and all that sort of stuff, but not when you're bidding. It's rare. You're not going to get any real incentives when you're bidding.
We could talk about incentives probably on another episode.
Yeah, we can do that.
Incentives, the builder, the relationship with the builder and title, the builder and mortgage, different topic. Okay, so they want that lender involved.
So once you send them that
DHI
email,
in this case,
and there's usually a deadline. Obviously, they also want your realtor's contact information and everything. Boom. So they get that email. And then Monday or Tuesday, they'll send it to their VP to review the numbers, and whoever did the best, that's who they give it to. It doesn't matter if it's, so some of those houses might be right at what the list price is, but a lot of times they go substantially over. Like I remember there was one neighborhood, I think or Parker Station, houses were going for like 150,000 more than they were listed at. And here's the
really
catch.
Early in 2021.
So when you accept, or when you send the bid to DR Horton, you have to tell them how much you're paying. And if let's say you're paying $425, let's say the house was listed at $425 and you're willing to pay $500, you have to bring that extra $75,000.
The difference between the $425,
which is the difference between $500 and $425,
and the $500 offer,
plus your earnest money. And your earnest money, I mean, right now it could be $4,000, right?
More minimal.
So you're bringing $79,000. If you accept that contract, you have to wire that to them. That's your earnest money. It's insane.
It's
I was like, can I say insane? I think I can't. Like, it's insane to me, right?
And with the appraisal, they still have to cover. That's how that contract's written.
Right. And if there's an appraisal that comes in and the appraiser's like, yeah, it's only $425. Now you have to bring $104,000. Right? Because they had it listed at $425 and the appraiser's like, nah, it's only worth $400. So
and this is just one example. DR Horton, we could reference different.
Yeah. Every builder has a different process, but it's really important to understand that. Man, I think this has been a crazy conversation, but we're an hour in. I say
you believe this is what we do all week.
I know. Well, but the thing is, we're so used to a lot of these things. Sometimes we just handle it for people. It's like, so you want a new build? Okay, this is your budget. This is what you're trying to go here. Like this is where we'll go.
We'll talk.
Let's start here, and then if you like it, we're good. And a lot of times first or second community, or sometimes first community, and we look at 3 builders and then they're already ready to sign a contract because I've already done the work. Like we've already said, okay, this is perfect. Some people want to explore and do all the numbers and everything. And that's fine too.
You got to move quick out here too. So I would like to think we're very knowledgeable. So we kind of calculate everything. People are like, I need this, this, and this. I'm like, okay, at that price point, boom.
And is it a good value? Listen, if you need a house and you want a house, what is the criteria for making it a good value? Right? Like, is it the school? Like, I don't think people ask that question all the time. Like, what is value?
No, they're confused. That's why they might bounce around a little bit, which is fine. I think you do need time to figure it out.
Process it. There's a lot. It's so crazy.
Reflect.
It moves fast. I've closed a house in 8 days.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Like what?
Just hundreds of thousands of dollars, 8 days.
Okay, yeah. So it is. I just want to say thank you everybody for watching. Jay, did you have any parting words for people that are watching this? New construction.
Yeah, I mean, new construction. I hope this was super helpful for y'all. And if y'all have any questions, comments, or concerns, let us know. Good luck on your property searches out there. Me and Ian got your back. You know how to get a hold of us. And I think we're at a golden point in the growth of this city. A lot of things are happening, and I think they're just starting. And new construction right now, I call it these concentric circles, that ring of new construction, and even your custom homes and all the stuff central, very interesting too. But get people in your corner. Whatever you do, just get people in your corner.
I love that, man. Yeah, especially if you don't have to pay for them. Because I say this to my clients, like, you don't have to pay to use me to represent you for a new build or a resale. The seller pays for that. And it doesn't matter. Like, they're not going to give you a less money or more money off of the house if you use me. That's not going to, or don't use a realtor. That doesn't work. But I'll get you on the sell side. Yeah, right? Like, people are like, oh,
you tell us the list. We got commissions on that.
Yeah. So, and people need to understand that, right? Like that's kind of how the real estate operates right now. So
what's your parting words?
My parting words are, if you are interested in a new construction home, you are going to make sacrifices versus a resale home. That's a conversation that you almost always want to have with your partner or your significant other or whoever you're purchasing a house with, because I don't think people that are moving here always understand Texas has so much land. There are so many new construction homes, but if you want to be close to the city, then most of the time a resale home is going to make sense unless you're willing to spend $800 or better for a new construction toward the city center. So keep that in mind. Have that conversation. I'm actually working on a video that's a drinking game on buying a new home. And then I have another video talking about the reason why I think the growth of the city is nowhere near what people think it's going to be. Like, it is going to be so much more, probably 5x what people are going to think it's going to be. Anyway, thanks for watching us on the Real Estate Lab, and we will see you very soon. Make sure you share this with people and like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff.
Share,
we hope that
comment.
And comment. Yeah, we hope that we provide you value. Seriously, like the subscriptions and the comments, all that does is kind of incentivizes us to keep sharing information. It's really meaningful, and we appreciate you. Thank you for watching.
Thanks, everybody.